October 14, 1943. 8th Air Force Headquarters, High Wycombe, England. The night air hummed with the relentless clatter of teletype machines. 60 bombers gone. 600 American boys dead, missing, or drifting down into enemy hands. Black Thursday. At 21:47 hours, Colonel Curtis LeMay's stark message hit the desk. Without long-range fighter escort, daylight bombing campaign unsustainable. Request immediate suspension of deep penetration missions. General Henry Hap Arnold set the telegram down, stared at the map of Europe pinned to the wall, and reached for the scrambler phone to Washington. The entire doctrine of precision daylight bombing, the proud cornerstone of American air power, teetered on the edge of collapse. What no one in that room yet grasped was that the solution was already rolling off assembly lines in California and Michigan. Within 4 months, silver-winged American fighters would be prowling the skies above Berlin itself, hunting the hunters. The Luftwaffe's vaunted defensive web would unravel under the pressure of an airplane that married British genius with American mass-production muscle. The P-51 Mustang would not merely escort bombers to the German capital. It would erase the Luftwaffe as a fighting force. The mathematics of the air war over Europe had always been merciless. By the fall of 1943, any B-17 crew flying out of East Anglia faced the grim actuarial truth. 25 missions made a full tour, but the average crew lasted 15 before fire, flak, or a parachute ride into captivity. The Germans had built a defense in depth that was nothing short of brilliant. 3 concentric walls of steel stretched from the English Channel to the Reich's industrial heartland. The outer ring, hugging the French coast, bristled with single-engine Messerschmitt Bf-109s and Focke-Wulf Fw-190s that pounced the moment bomber boxes crossed the coastline. Deeper in, over Belgium and northern France, twin-engine Zerstorers, heavy fighters like the Me-110 and Me-410, loitered beyond the reach of .50 caliber defensive guns, lobbing 21 cm rockets that could tear a fortress apart with one hit. The inner sanctum, guarding the Ruhr and Berlin, belonged to the elite Jagdgeschwader, crack outfits flying the latest 109GS and 190A8S, guided by a radar chain that tracked American formations from the instant they formed up over Suffolk. German controllers worked like orchestra conductors. Fighters struck, expended fuel and ammo, peeled off to land on forward fields, refueled in 20 minutes, and rose again to hit the same bomber stream on its way home. One formation might face the same German pilots 3 times in a single mission. General Adolf Galland, the young, cigar-chomping genius of the Jagdwaffe, had perfected the art. His aces attacked head-on, straight into the B-17's weakest arc of fire, targeting lead bombardiers and squadron commanders. A single burning leader could throw an entire wing's aiming point off by hundreds of yards. The twin-engine boys stood off at 1,000 yards and ripple-fired their Wurfgranate rockets, forcing the bombers to break formation and expose their bellies to the single-engine wolves. It was industrial-scale slaughter. The Mustang's origin story reads like a Hollywood pitch no studio would believe. Spring 1940, Britain is bleeding, the RAF is burning through Spitfires and Hurricanes faster than Supermarine and Hawker can build them. The British Purchasing Commission knocks on North American Aviation's door in Los Angeles with a simple ask: build us P-40 Warhawks under license. NA President, Dutch Kindelberger counters with audacity: give us 120 days and we'll design you something better from scratch. Contract signed April 24th. First prototype, the NA-73X, flies July 26th, 102 days later. The airframe is revolutionary, a laminar flow wing that slices drag at high speed, a belly scoop that feeds a radiator with minimal turbulence, and a cockpit laid out like a fighter pilot's dream. Early Allison-powered models are fast down low, but they wheeze above 15,000 feet, exactly where the bombers live. Enter Ronald Harker, Rolls-Royce test pilot. April 1942, he rings out a Mustang at Duxford and wires Derby the same day. Put a Merlin in it, and you'll have a world beater. Within weeks, 5 airframes are shuttling between Hucknall and Los Angeles. The Merlin 61, 2-stage, 2-speed supercharger, the same heart that turned the Spitfire 9 into a high-altitude assassin, mates to the Mustang like it was born there. Packard in Detroit licenses the Merlin, re-engineers it for American tooling, and by late 1943 the V1650-3 is pumping 490 horsepower at 30,000 feet. Internal fuel, 269 gallons. Combat radius, 475 miles clean, 850 with drop tanks. Berlin sits 580 miles from East Anglia. Do the math. Lieutenant Colonel Tommy Hitchcock, polo champion, World War I Lafayette Escadrille veteran, and air attaché in London, becomes the Mustang's evangelist. His cables to Arnold are blunt. This airplane can fight over Berlin and fly home for breakfast. Arnold listens. August 17, 1943. The mission that breaks the camel's back. 2 hammer blows aimed at the Reich's jugular, Schweinfurt's ball-bearing plants and Regensburg's Messerschmitt factories. The plan is elegant. Split the Luftwaffe's interceptors, send the Regensburg force south to land in North Africa, avoid the gauntlet on the return leg. 376 B-17s roar off East Anglian runways at dawn. Fog socks in the Schweinfurt force for 90 crucial minutes. German fighters chew the Regensburg bombers to ribbons, land, gas up, and hit the latecomers just as hard. 60 fortresses lost, 1 in 6. 600 empty bunks that night. LeMay suspends deep strikes for 6 weeks. Washington screams. Intelligence says ball-bearing production is already rebounding. October 14th, Black Thursday, delivers the coup de grace. 291 B-17s cross the Dutch coast. P-47 escorts turn back at the limit of their tanks. 300 German fighters swarm in relayed waves. Rockets arc like flaming telephone poles. One crewman remembers the sky filling with glowing red baseballs. 60 more bombers gone. Morale in the officers' clubs hits rock bottom. Bartenders pour whiskey with shaking hands. November 20th, 1943. RAF Boxstead, Essex. The first P-51 BS of the 354th Fighter Group touched down in a cold English drizzle. The pilots, trained on P-39s and P-47s, climb out wide-eyed. Major Jim Howard, commanding the 356th Squadron, takes one up the next morning. He levels at 30,000 feet, pushes the throttle, and the Merlin sings. The Jug never felt like this. December 1st, first fighter sweep over Lille. December 5th, first escort to Emden. Bomber loss rates plummet whenever the sleek new fighters appear. January 6, 1944. Jimmy Doolittle, Tokyo Raider, Ph.D. aeronautical engineer, racer of GBs, takes command of the 8th. He storms into 8th Fighter Command at Bushy Hall, spots a sign. The first duty of 8th Air Force fighters is to bring the bombers back alive. Doolittle rips it down. New sign, he barks. The first duty of 8th Air Force fighters is to destroy German fighters. Everything changes. No more weaving defensively above the boxes. P-51 groups leapfrog ahead, bounce Luftwaffe fighters while they're still climbing out, chase them all the way to the deck, strafe the airfields on the way home. Colonel Don Blakesley, ex-Eagle Squadron Spitfire ace now leading the 4th Fighter Group, scraps the rigid 3-plane Vic for fluid 2-plane elements. Hunt, don't escort, becomes the gospel. February 20th to 25th, 1944. Operation Argument, Big Week. 1,000 bombers a day hammer aircraft factories from Italy to Poland. Mustangs, now 5 full groups, range to the horizon. Jim Howard, alone, tangles with 30 Germans for half an hour to shield a crippled box, earns the Medal of Honor. German losses, 355 fighters shot down, 150 more wrecked on the ground. 17% of their experienced pilots, gone in 6 days. Irreplaceable. March 4, 1944. Berlin. 800 heavy bombers, 900 escorts. Cloud from 2,000 to 28,000 feet. Navigation by stopwatch and compass. Captain Don Gentile drops tanks near Hanover, dives on a gaggle of 109s forming below. I gave one a 3-second burst, he rolled and went straight in. German radio crackles with panic. Amerikanische Jäger über Berlin. Galland scrambles personally in his personal FW-198. Mustangs bounce him before he reaches the bombers. 69 German fighters lost that day. The message is unmistakable. The Reich skies belong to the eagle, not the swastika. By April, 7 P-51 groups prowl at will. Colonel Hub Zemke's 56th Fighter Group perfects the Zemke fan, P-47's mimic bomber chatter to lure interceptors into high-cover Mustangs. Oil becomes the target. May 12, 800 bombers, 800 escorts hit synthetic plants at Luna, Seitz, and Brucks. 500 German fighters rise to meet them, the largest air battle of the war to date. Major George Prettybag 6. The Luftwaffe loses 126 aircraft. American bombers drop their loads through thinning flak and turn for home under clear skies. June 6, 1944. D-Day. 13,000 Allied aircraft over Normandy. The Luftwaffe musters 319 sorties all day. John Meyer flies 3 missions. We owned the sky. We'd orbit the beaches, then go inland and shred anything on wheels. German panzers crawl only at night, blinded by J-bows. The numbers tell the story. January 1944, Luftwaffe fields 395 single-engine day fighters. June 1944 1, 523 operational despite producing 3,000 new airframes. Pilot losses, 262 in 5 months. American claims for 1944 5, 954 destroyed in the air, 4, 131 on the ground, 4, 950 by P-51s alone. Kill ratio, better than 2 to 1. In October 1943 the 8th lost a bomber for every ton of bombs delivered. By midsummer 1944, 1 bomber for every 40 tons. Oil production collapses from 196,000 tons in May to 30,000 in September. New Mi-262 jets sit engineless on factory ramps for lack of fuel. The human ledger is heavier. 8th Air Force, 26,000 dead, 28,000 prisoners. Luftwaffe fighter arm, roughly 40,000 pilots lost, most in the war's final 18 months. Every loss a mother's telegram, a small-town ball field gone quiet. April 25, 1945. The 8th's last combat mission, 370 B-17s to Czech rail yards, escorted by 550 Mustangs. Not one German fighter rises to challenge them. Galland, in post-war captivity, is blunt. The long-range American fighter was decisive. Your bombers might have worn us down eventually, but the Mustang annihilated us in months. The legacy outlives the war. P-51s fly Korea in 1950, lobbing napalm when jets lack loiter time. The Dominican Air Force retires its last Mustang in 1984. At the National Museum of the United States Air Force, George Pretty's Cripes a Mighty Third gleams under spotlights. 26 kill markings on the fuselage. Children ask why an old prop job sits among F-22s and space shuttles. The answer: because in 6 months it turned annihilation into air supremacy, saved the daylight offensive, enabled D-Day, and shortened the war by a year. Because it proved that democratic nations, when their backs are to the wall, can outthink, outbuild, and outfight any tyrant. The runways at Steeple Morden, Debden, and Leiston are gone, plowed under for barley and sugar beets. The Merlin's 12-cylinder snarl is now a memory in veterans' dreams. But the lesson endures. Technology without courage is scrap metal, courage without technology is tragedy. The P-51 gave young Americans both. They took the fight to the heart of darkness and brought the light home.